Podcast with Tek and Prem.
It's the Vet Alumni Podcast. I'm Tek, he's Prem, and a lot has happened since last week's show.
Yeah.
I want to start off by saying I said I wasn't going to stop with the Myles Garrett stuff until it was an impossibility. It is an impossibility.
It didn't take long. You know, you guys running around Radio Row during the Super Bowl. I want to win. I want a championship. First people to put a little bit of money in front of them.
Oh, yeah, $40 million. Forget winning. I'm
winning
happy.
Doesn't matter.
No, 5-12. I can live with that.
You know, he's probably thinking, let me get paid right now, and then when I'm 34, 35, I'll just hop onto a contender.
Yeah, like Von Miller might do.
Yeah, that was right, which he will do.
Yeah, he will do.
Yeah, you know what? It's been typically every year, the first week or at least first 4 or 5 days of free agency are really fun, all the activity. But one thing I'll lead with before we really get into it is everybody right now, especially in the NFC, is trying to catch up to the Eagles.
No, you're right. You're right.
And that's how I'm viewing my seat of my perspective, my bird's eye, if you will.
Yes.
We have the bird's eye where everybody else is worm's eye.
Yeah, you're right. I've been saying, by the way, when they were all talking about wide receivers and quarterbacks and everything, I'm sitting there going, you know what teams in the NFC East and in the NFC in general better start doing? They better start really improving their offensive lines.
Right.
Because
well, the Bears are.
And the Bears, you know why?
Yeah.
Ben Johnson, he understands the assignment comes from Detroit where he had an O-line. He saw, hey, this Jared Goff guy, he's all right, but you could take an all right guy that's good enough.
Yep.
You load him up with an offensive line and all kind of weapons, and we can take it to the NFC Championship, not this year, but last year.
Yeah, they could take a step forward. A step forward for Chicago this year would be like 8-9. And Caleb looks pretty good with a lot of positive flashes of things. 8-9, even 7-10 would be a step forward from where they were.
They might even be better than that. They might fall into one of my sleepers this year. And look at what Minnesota did, because they were a fraud and they knew it.
And who's throwing the ball? Who's throwing the ball?
Well, right now it's J.J. McCarthy. I mean, it's just,
Hey, look, the kid deserves a shot, too.
Yeah, I mean, he was the guy, and then he got hurt. And the backup was Sam Darnold, who had this great year.
Their receiving core is probably top 5 in football.
Right, so the kid J.J., he could come in and do like what Bo Nix did and just look good and have weapons. And
Bo Nix is the one there. Denver, I think, is going to really give Kansas City a run for their money.
Yeah, they improved.
They did.
They improved AFC-wise. But, look, Josh Sweat, $19.5 million. Get out of here.
These guys are overvalued,
Milton Williams, 26. Only a terrible team could pay.
They're
Milton
over,
$26 million a year.
You know,
$104 million, 60+ guaranteed.
I was thinking about this earlier today, actually, Tek. You know, Sweat being a 4th-round pick, Milton being a 3rd-round pick, the Birds having 20 picks over the next 2 drafts.
Yeah, well,
they could duplicate.
You get those picks back, the 3rd and the 4th for those 2 guys.
And they can find the compensatory system.
Yeah.
They can find another Milton Williams, another Josh Sweat.
Absolutely. You might already have one with a Jomo.
That's what nobody's talking about. Yeah, Jomo had a better win rate than Milton,
he did. I think he had one of the best win rates on the whole line, did he not?
Yeah, and in the whole league, actually. But limited time, though.
Within
still,
the snaps.
If you balance it out, maybe he's not top of the pack, but maybe he's still above average. But
I think a Jomo can easily come in and replace the production Milton Williams gave you. That's my line of thinking.
I think so, too, and I think that they're gonna draft. I mean, look. Howie has enough 5ths to move up in any round he wants.
Yes, he does.
Honestly, he does. He has flexibility and he knows it.
And we'll get into that, because I think some of one in particular of the moves they made in free agency signals to me that they might have to move up in that first round this year and go grab whoever the best edge is that they can get.
Hey, I would not be opposed to that. Package up 32, and I think they have 2/3 this year.
Yes.
Take one of your 3rds, number 32, and honestly, in some cases, for some teams, that might be enough.
It might be.
Some of these teams, man, I don't know who the general managers are or where they came up as football minds, but it's just a lot of head shaking with some of these deals that we see.
Yeah, I think if you can move up enough to try to get in position to get a James Pierce Jr. Look,
you got to get to the top 15 for Pierce,
right?
and
in order to do that, too, you need help. You need some of these quarterbacks, because right now there's like 2 quarterbacks. You need like 2, maybe 3 other quarterbacks to move into the first round.
Right, which is not – I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen.
But, hey,
either.
look, we saw last year the fact that Mitchell and DeJean both fell to us.
Weird things happened in the few weeks leading up to the draft, and really that 2-week period before the draft. Some interesting twists and turns start taking place. You never know what can happen. It's still early, and something may material. Maybe some quarterbacks, like I said, maybe 2 or 3 of those guys that aren't listed as first-round guys propel into the first round.
You know what I would not be opposed to? I would not be opposed to, and this is going to sound like something that a lot of fans probably haven't even considered or think, oh, you're crazy. I don't know what the tackle market for the draft looks like, but
it's deep.
I'd be fine if they wanted to move up and take a Lane Johnson replacement project early.
Oh, offensive tackle.
I mean, Lane's what?
Well,
got
look,
two more Pro Bowl years in Lane,
guys,
I think, and then it's iffy.
The 2 guys that I did heavy research on, and I know they met with at least one of them, if not both of them, at the Combine, but Anthony Belton, this guy, he's huge.
Yeah.
They call him the Escalade.
I like it.
He is massive.
I heard of this kid. Yeah, I heard of this kid.
And he's got like a 3rd, 4th round grade, and so does Charles Grant from William and Mary, another guy who's not as big, but he's athletic.
Maybe you don't have to move up, but I would. A lot of fans don't like it. It's not a sexy pick, but I'd be fine if they use that first on the best tackle in the nation on the board.
I'm not mad at trenches. I just look at that edge spot, and I'm a little nervous at the edge spot, and I just feel like maybe that's. And then in the second round, I hate to say it, they're positioning themselves to have to go tight end, and I actually thought maybe you would stick the first 3 picks at least would be all defense, and now I'm thinking maybe they're thinking tight end.
Well, they might take Mason Taylor if they stay at 32.
Yeah, either him or Terrence Ferguson. Those 2 guys are the hot names.
I don't think that Mason Taylor is going to be there. At the
I don't either.
pick.
I think Terrence Ferguson could be there. I don't know if he'll.
No, Taylor will go in the second round if he's not taken by the Birds in the first. I mean, somebody might even reach for him earlier than that.
Yeah, because the Birds would have to move up in the second round significantly too. They picked 32 in the second round too.
Right. Hey, the perils of winning a Super Bowl.
I know. Hey, you got to.
We'll take it,
and you have to pay the piper. So that's what a lot of this is. Slay is gone, and by the way, 1 year, $10 million in Pittsburgh. I actually think that's pretty economical. But listen, I was ready to move on from Slay. I'm not upset at this at all.
Yeah,
I was ready.
I'll say this about Slay: it's rare that a cornerback in his 30s has a good year after a career year.
He did.
That's rare, though, right? I mean,
yes.
For him to string together a year like that at 30, was he 34 now, Slay?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they're hedging bets on this one.
When it mattered the most, he was locked down.
He was.
I admit it. Here's where it gets sticky for me, okay? Because I expected everything we just talked about. Rodgers and Burks both gone. Both signed very economically smart deals that I thought could be brought back here. But I think
Rodgers I'm okay with now because of the Jackson signing.
Which we'll get to.
Burks is kind of, I feel like they look at him as expendable because you can just go out and sign Kaiser White right now, and that's probably a little bit better.
Maybe, but when Dean went out, not only was there no drop-off, Burks made plays.
He did. He was forcing fumbles. He was finding the ball. He had a nose for the ball.
I just think, listen, I understand. He signed for $1.25 million or whatever it was to be a backup linebacker, and he just got 2.5. He just doubled up.
Yeah.
Howie's probably looking at that like, I'm not giving you double.
Well, Trout Jr. is going to step into a bigger role if they don't address it, but they'll address it, though. I think they'll either sign a veteran
they're
or
going
they'll
to address,
draft.
and we'll get to this in a second, they're going to address every little hole. I think they have to with a veteran. They want the young guys to win these jobs.
They do, and you know what? They have. Many of them have.
Yeah,
Nolan Smith.
They want to keep that
energy going. Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean, Quinyon Mitchell. Well, Mitchell being a first,
plus
but Cooper.
It keeps that cheap starting players on rookie deals.
Reed Blankenship, good example. These guys have all come in and been the true definition of value draft additions to your team.
Now, here's the doozy. Here's the one that literally sucker punched everybody in the face.
Does it involve 4 names in one?
Yes, it does. CJGJ traded to the Texans. So, all right, now listen, I've heard a bunch of reputable sources tell bits and pieces, and I've pieced together all these bits.
Okay, I'll have my hypothesis
to
after
pretty
yours.
much tell the story of what happened here.
Right.
And it's not only is it believable. It's like, okay, it makes it look from a football decision that I hate to a business decision that's smart.
It is.
Smart
It is.
business decision.
I think after sitting with it, it's a smart business decision.
I'll be honest. It took me a day.
It did.
To really live with this, and then hear all these bits and pieces, and then go, yes.
And before you get into it, I'll give you one before you give me your reasons that I don't think you've heard. Maybe you have. So of all the safeties in the NFL, C.J. Gardner-Johnson allowed the most touchdowns in coverage.
Yes.
9.
It's funny you say that because that goes to a quote here.
And it's the most since 2012 from a safety when 12 were allowed by a Niners safety. I forget who it was.
Yes.
So that's their only real glaring weakness on defense then.
Right. So this
Crazy, man.
This is what.
And when you think back, you're going to remember these plays. I remember getting upset with him.
Oh, yes. I got upset with him. He got cooked a bunch of times. You're like, what happened?
He also is such a fearless competitor, too.
He is, and he's got that grit. And that's why, look, they knew who he was 2 years ago. That's why they brought him back. Right. They know who he is. Everybody's like, oh, they got rid of him for the attitude. No, they didn't. They got rid of him because this was an economical decision. And by the way, a smart one, and I'll tell you why. This is what came down the pipeline. CJGJ, after Saquon got paid, there were rumors from all these different YouTube podcasters, look out, CJGJ is going to want a new deal. Well, that wasn't a bad theory because he did want a new deal. He went to Howie and said, I want a new contract. Howie said, it can't happen. I got to pay the young guys upcoming, and, that's that. And CJGJ said, well, what can we do? Howie said, I can move you. And he said, well, if you're going to move me, could you at least move me
to a winner,
to someplace competitive?
Yeah, I've heard that, and it's good that he went to the AFC, first off.
Well, yeah, so Howie said, let me see what I can do. He went and talked to Vic Fangio, asked him what he thought. Vic said, listen, I'm okay with it. He makes plays, but he's also out of position a ton.
He is.
And gave up a lot of touchdowns.
He did.
So he said he also pushed back a lot on Coach Parker. And
who's the DB's coach?
That's the DB's coach. He's publicly a vocal guy. He wanted a new contract. So if you think of it with Belichickian wisdom.
Looking ahead in the crystal ball, if you will.
You do the Belichickian
the sit-ups in the driveway.
It's better to move a guy a year too early instead of a year too late.
Absolutely. And you know what? I'm fine with it because you got a high-ceiling guard back with the best offensive line coach in the world.
Right, exactly. So he managed to get back Kenyon Green, former 15th overall pick. Turned out to be a bust, but he's only 23. Yeah. And he's going to Stoutland U where careers get saved.
Might not be a bust. He might just not have had the right people around him.
Well, I mean, he caught a bad rap in Houston. They're like good riddance. And look, hey, I get that. By the way, same thing with Mekhi Becton. He was sitting out there. Nobody wanted him.
Who's still now not signed.
I think that's a good thing for us.
I think it is too.
I think
let him come crawling back to Howie.
He's collecting his offers, and because I don't know if it was Jeff McClain or Airport Johnny Clark. One of them reported before free agency began that Becton wanted to stay here.
He would take less,
and was willing to sit out free agency a little bit and let the offers collect and then work something out with Howie.
I like it.
So the longer he's still out there, the better that is for us. Yeah. Because also, he might be coming back as a contingency plan at tackle behind Lane Johnson. There is no
he's
more
big enough.
Fred Johnson.
Fred Johnson signed somewhere else, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
So you could be bringing Becton back to start where he was starting last year, but also be able to play tackle where he really wants to play.
It was a short-lived thing, the Johnson brothers at right tackle.
Yeah, and it wasn't bad either.
He actually came in and was serviceable.
He did.
In the little bit of time he had to play.
Now plus what you got back in that CJGJ deal was a 5th-round pick. So
we have like 5 fifths?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
It's better to get something of value now instead of waiting a year, him chirping, and getting nothing back.
I completely agree, and this team, I believe that they've learned their lesson with the exact situation that you're talking about, about avoiding that.
How this was done was brilliant. And by the way, CJGJ leaves dapping up Howie like, yo, good looking, because I asked you to at least send me someplace competitive. You're sending me to a playoff team in the AFC with a defensive backfield that is now tremendous.
Yeah.
He's back there with Stingley and such a great group.
Yeah, they were really good last year.
Yeah.
Texas
so
defense.
he's going to the AFC now with C.J. Stroud and a good head coach and a good defense, and he's in a really good spot.
Would you look at that?
Howie
the
looked out for him.
The CJs are together.
Yes, and Howie looked out for him.
He did. He did.
So
he didn't have to. Not every GM is like that.
No. He said, look, I could move you. And he said, well, if you do move me, send me somewhere I can, compete.
You don't want to end up in Cleveland.
No. That's exactly right.
Basically. And why would you?
I believe Howie did him a solid, and that's why this all ended good. By the way, it's not only just signings and drafts that you look at Howie and go, Howie's great. It's because of things like this. It's because look what he did with Saquon. He paid him early. We talked last year. Here's a correction from last week's show. We said it saves them money on the cap. It doesn't. It costs them an extra $1 million on the cap.
That was a bad report I must have heard.
Yeah, me too. I you know what it was? I read the over the cap and the spot track before it was adjusted to this year's salary cap.
Right.
Now they lost $1 million potentially.
But you know what though? It's the right thing to do.
Yes.
And the core of this team, like
and
you mentioned,
the Baun deal.
The Baun deal's smart. So those are two moves that make perfect sense to me from a team perspective and a player appreciation perspective.
Yeah, and it's just
because it sends a message.
It does, and then you know what else sends a message? This kind of deal with CJGJ where a guy wants to get paid. You go, well, listen, I can't pay you. And he goes, well, can you move me? And he goes, yeah, I can see what I can do. And the guy goes, well, can you send me somewhere that's competitive, like a good team?
Which narrows the list.
And then he does.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah.
He gets you there out the door, and like he does it quietly. Where like I'm picking up little bits and pieces from different things, but that story, that report is not out in full anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's like,
right.
Which goes to say the Eagles are not letting any of that leak as far as that whole story. There's bits and pieces. CJGJ himself let a little bit of it out, and that's where it really starts to come together.
Right, yeah, of course.
But like,
of course. I understand the move now more, though.
It's a class organization that doesn't
move
move like that. And even though I was upset football-wise, it's like business-wise, I'm like, it's great.
I'll tell you what, Tek,
business move.
This team, performance-wise, it's not going to look much different next year.
I don't think it will.
It's not going to be the top defense in the league, but they'll be top 10. They'll be top 10.
Thank you. Because I was going to say maybe even top 12, but I'm willing to say top 10.
I think they're top 10 because their offense is going to hold the ball so much.
Right. So they're
going to be rested on the field.
This is where I'm at. I think when I saw people say, it looks like a retool season, it's not. It's a retool for the defense.
That's a crazy take because it's not a retool. Stud on every level of the defense still.
Right. But it's slight retool on the defense, but it's not a retool on the team at all. The team is still going to be what they need to be. Because you got to think about this. When people just blindly throw things out there like, and believe me, I am super hyper critical on every move, everything that happens. And I'm telling you right now that when people say, it looks like a step back year and things like that, it's like, yo, man, look. You got Jalen Hurts. You got Saquon Barkley, who, by the way, is not a spring chicken, and he ain't getting no younger. You got A.J. Brown.
He's in his prime. They're all in their prime.
You got an offensive line you got Lane Johnson, who's older, and you got Devontae Smith in his prime. You got a prime offense. You got guys on defense that are blossoming. Yo, Howie and the front office and Laurie, they are not trying to waste a year of these prime players' careers.
No. Look, we're in chapter 1 of a 10-chapter off-season book, right? You can't write the review for the book until all 10 chapters are read. So a big part of that is the first wave of free agency, which we're seeing now, then the second wave of free agency and trades.
Is this...
the first week. I'm going week, first week of free agency, right? Then you have the period from after the first week of all the craziness till the draft, maybe some trades, maybe some more little signings trickle in. And then the draft. And then at that point, when we're approaching camp, then I'll give my initial review. But even that isn't the final review because so much between July and September is going to go down. Howie might make a move in September, the week before the season, that makes the fan base go, yo.
It's what happens.
Look at this.
Look at when we initially got Bradbury. I think that was like in May or June or July when we got Bradbury.
Yeah, right. There's going to be guys that are not signed that they're desperate to get paid. Will take less money because they haven't got offers.
When did we get CJ? We were like in training camp.
Right.
So
I mean, look, you got AJ Brown on draft night.
Yeah, exactly.
You traded to move up to get Devontae Smith on draft night. These are things that need to be considered when people are evaluating this. They evaluate it in a vacuum as if these moves are dictating everything. These are just pieces of a 1,000-piece puzzle on the table, and only 25% of that puzzle is even put together at this point.
You're absolutely right.
As far as the new pieces go.
And to all and look, I get it. I jump off the bridge. I leap out the window. I'm a guy that pushes the panic
You're
button.
a frantic ex-poster.
I am. I live in the moment. And let me tell, for all the people who are like that, and I so
sympathize,
empathize, and relate.
I feel your pain.
Yes, I relate. And just like I said the other night when we were on the fantastic sports show on Fox 29.
We absolutely
with
were.
Breland Moore.
Great night.
I said two things can be true at the same time. Yes, we can sit here and say what we've been lamenting. Howie has a plan. He's earned our trust.
He has. Anyone that says otherwise, honestly, I have to question their intelligence.
I get it. You're right.
Forget about football. Just how intelligent are you?
Yes. I mean, he's the GM, best GM possibly in professional sports.
Possibly. He's up there.
So
with the LA GM.
It's one thing to say,
Dodgers.
I absolutely trust Howie and his process. He's earned that. But it's also true that I look and I'm disappointed, and I'm like, Yeah,
because we grow emotionally attached to some of these players.
And you're the number one defense, so you don't want to see the defense kind of get picked apart like this. And I get it. Yes, okay, we're disappointed, but what overrides the disappointment? The other true thing. The Howie's process thing.
Right.
So that's what we have to lean on, and let's talk about who they signed. Let's talk about who's coming in. We start, by the way, with the guy who's already here.
Right.
Ben Van Sumeren, coming back this time with a fullback designation. No more linebacker. He's going to get a jersey change so that he doesn't have to check in anymore with the reps.
I like it. I like it because you added A.J. Dillon there as well. You got a heavy set backfield now.
Now, I'm going to preface. We'll get to A.J. Dillon. Let me preface this by saying, okay, look. We all go to Nordstrom's, right? We Neiman Marcus, all right?
Okay.
We go there. We go to our section, and at the front of the section, we're like, oh, look at this. Oh, look at this.
Yeah, of course.
Howie's going to the back.
Yep.
He's going to the clearance rack, the bargain bin section, going, let me see what I can rock with.
Who can I bring in here that's going to contribute positively?
Right, let me see what's there. Let me try to find a misplaced item that maybe fell out of favor that may not actually belong here. That's what he's looking for.
Untagged items.
That's what he's looking for.
Out of box.
Correct. So, when people are looking, when they're like cornerbacks and safeties, and they're like, oh, well, let me look, and they're looking at like the top of the list.
Yeah,
right. But it's like if you go to like one of these sites that shows what they made last year, and you look and you saw a guy made $14 million or $7.5 million or $9 million last year, it's like that ain't it, guys.
No.
You scroll down to the bottom.
Well, they're looking
and
then
go up.
The Baun signing from last year.
Yeah, you're looking at around $3.5 million and under. Look at those guys. Yeah. That is probably the last 8-9 names on that list.
But there's
not
still
the
guys
first
in some cases
8-9
that
names.
maybe just were in the wrong system, but they're good players.
Hey, and older guys, some guys, you might find a 27, 28-year-old, but a lot of them are 32, 33, 34, 31. A lot of them
he
are
hasn't
like
had to venture that far yet in the age. He's got a 26-year-old, three 26-year-olds, and a 29-year-old guy.
So we go to A.J. Dillon.
I like A.J. Dillon.
Quadzilla.
I always thought when he was coming
father.
out, that guy can run, man.
Yeah,
you just got to wonder about the neck injuries.
A bad neck. It kept him out all last season.
But that's because you really have to wait with an injury like that.
Look, he's been medically cleared to play. I got to see him healthy. I like this move in theory. I got to see him healthy before I'm buying it. Right now,
I'd be fine with Will Shipley as our backup.
Right
I'm
now,
being honest with you. I'd be fine with Shipley as the backup.
Now, who knows what happens in camp today? In theory, A.J. Dillon was brought here to be
back up,
the 1-2 punch, to be the guy. You know,
when you're up 25 or 26-10 in the late third quarter, you give Saquon a breather.
Yes.
You take him off the field, and you let Dorsey Levens 2.0 run rampant.
Barkley had so many snaps last year, so many touches that you had to bring in a guy that could take away some of those
500 touches, right?
Ridiculous. Yeah, something like that.
You got to get that down to like 390.
Yeah. So in order to do that, you got to bring in a guy.
But Will Shipley, man, I'm telling you, we were high on him when he got drafted. I'd be fine with Will Shipley taking Gainwell's role.
In theory, A.J. Dillon is that guy, but in reality, Shipley's that guy for me right now.
I'm excited to see Shipley get better.
I need to see Dillon healthy before I could just say, Dillon's that guy.
But that's a smart insurance move because I think you're right. I think they, like you mentioned before, they want Shipley to win the job. And it's going to depend on how healthy is Dillon.
Yeah, they want these guys to
But
And
that's drafting well. This is the luxury that drafting well affords you.
You know what this A.J. Dillon move does? Even though Shipley catches balls out about backfield, but it's sort of like ditches that concept because we always talked about that for the last couple of years, but they don't do that. They don't utilize that.
Only a few times.
We talk about it like it's a weapon of theirs, and it's really not. It's not a weapon in their offense. They don't. So the reason why I like the Dillon move, it doubles down on this ground and pound mentality. It doubles down.
Imagine you got a standard I formation with Van Sumeren and the traditional fullback 4-point stance, 3-point stance, and then you have Dillon in the tail right behind him.
Yes.
And you got instead of doing a tush push on a 3rd and 2, a long 2, you're running that play with a lead blocker in Dillon.
That's right.
And you're going to get that 80% of the time.
I believe so. Because I believe this is they also have to have a contingency with the tush push. They can't do it as much as they have.
Right, and that's their identity. Their identity is we're going to come out and we are stronger than you and we know it. Oh, but guess what? We're also faster on the outside than you too.
Yeah.
And that's why they won a Super Bowl.
You're right.
Because defensively, it is an absolute nightmare, and that isn't changing for teams.
No, but what these moves show me is that what Hugh Douglas was saying is really correct. That defense, and this is coming from a guy who was a top defensive player.
Eagles Wall of Fame.
He's been saying all year long, and I now submit and that he is right. That defense is a luxury, and that Howie didn't have a core. He was just signing guys for a year, 2-year deals or whatever. And now that he's got a core, he can fill in a couple spots with those rental guys. And apparently, CJ was just a rental guy.
That's fine because the Dory Jackson coming in here, I know you're getting to it. I think that's a good signing. I think that's a corner that has been on just bad teams. Yes. And it kind of overshadows a guy's ability. Look, last year,
we'll jump to him.
48.5% completion rate against him. That's it. And his career, 58% for his career.
You're right.
These are good numbers when a guy does not have to come in and be a star.
Right.
Just come in and play your role in Fangio's system.
I'm seeing a lot of online about the Adoree Jackson signing. This is a depth piece now, for Ringo. Now he can be the Rodgers role to
I don't agree
Ringo
with
was
that.
Yeah,
I don't agree with that.
This signing signals that they want Ringo to be the guy, but they don't think he's the guy yet. He was the 3rd last season behind Rodgers. Now he'll get to be right behind Jackson, who's a solid vet, at least in camp. I think the idea is to bring in a vet who's been a long-time starter in this league.
Exactly.
And force Ringo to beat him in camp for that job.
It's a litmus test. It's a litmus test.
Yeah, win the job.
You want to have litmus tests for your young guys.
Yeah, they want Ringo, and I'm totally confused of why all the bloggers and YouTube podcaster guys, everybody is stamping Ringo. They want Ringo. Ringo couldn't get on the field if Rodgers was available. He wasn't good enough to beat out Rodgers. He wasn't. And when he did get on the field, he was a penalty machine. He couldn't cover without holding a guy. He was good on special teams. He also got penalized on special teams, but he was actually ended up being tremendous as a special teams player. But he was a backup corner at best. That's what he was.
Speaking of the secondary, real quick, before we move off of safety, a guy that now has a chance, too, to kind of turn some heads, who's also a Georgia guy. Haitian-born, Georgia Bulldog, Sine.
Sine, is that his name?
I believe it's Sine or Sine.
Sine.
Sine. I think it's Sine.
That's cool, actually.
Yeah, I looked up the enunciation.
They kept him around. They kept him around for this reason.
Why not,
you're
man?
Right about this.
Why not?
He's
Let's
a safety,
see,
right?
see what he's got, man.
We'll get
because
to
he
safety
hasn't
in
got
a
a
minute.
great shot. I forget where he was, where they got him from, but he hasn't been given a full shot. He's young.
As soon as he hit a practice squad, they stole him because he was on that Georgia team.
I think it might have been the Bills practice squad or the Chiefs practice squad they got. I think so.
They took him right off that.
Yeah, he's going to be in camp, and he's going to get a lot of preseason snaps.
You're right about that.
And I want to see what he's got because, look, he's from the same ilk as Ringo, as Carter, as Davis, as Dean. These guys all know each other. There's a comfortability there.
Yes.
And all you got to do is come in at safety and maybe not allow 9 touchdowns.
Yeah. Oh, and maybe try to play in position because Vic was.
Listen to old man Vic and smile and do your job because do you want to win a ring? Do you want to go back to back and be considered a modern NFL dynasty for the first time in this franchise's history? I think they'd all say yeah.
Yeah, me too. I like the Adoree Jackson signing. It forces Ringo to have to win the job. He has to win this job. It's not being given to. They're not giving it to you. You got to win it. You got to earn the job.
Is Eli Ricks still on the roster?
I think he is. I don't think he's even as good as Ringo. When I saw him last year come in, I didn't think he was a professional level corner.
You know who's out there?
Didn't.
You know who's out there that is a professional level corner?
Who's that?
Rasul Douglas.
I knew you were going to say Sewell. He's
going to need too much money.
And Kazir White. Everybody's talking about reuniting with these guys.
You could probably bring Kazir back on a 2-year, $8 million deal.
Well, I mean, I might consider it. I don't know if Howie's going to consider it.
I like it because, look, Dean has shown as much as he came along last year, he's shown that he is injury prone.
No, he is.
You don't want Van Sumeren switching back over to linebacker.
No, I think
mid-season in a big game.
I think they have him as a backup linebacker, but he is designated as a
He's
fullback.
a good special teamer too.
There's
a lot of times I just see Van Sumeren flying down the field like Vince Papale.
Yeah, I like the guy. Listen, I do like Van Sumeren. I was glad when I saw they were bringing him back. I'm like, I didn't know he was a free agent. Apparently he wasn't. It was an exclusive rights. He wasn't really going anywhere.
What a name! Yeah,
I like the guy.
Tender.
All right, so let's go back in order. Let's go now to edge rusher Josh Uche. Is that his name?
I believe it's a Uche.
Look, this move it doesn't move the needle for me at all.
I'm surprised to hear you say that. The guy's got a high motor.
Well, listen, he was good 3 years ago in New England, and in football years, it's like 8 years ago.
Even still, though, 6th best pass rush win rate in the league over that span, even in limited time.
He got hurt. He came back. He fell off a cliff. He got hurt again. He got traded to the Chiefs for a 6th-round pick.
Sounds to me like he needs a fresh start, Tek, and this is the place to do it.
He was so bad in Kansas City, he got benched by Spagnuolo.
That's fine with me. The fact that Spagnuolo had him on the field at one point tells me that he was viewed as a good player at one point.
I got him behind Jay Luxon on the depth chart.
Well, yeah, but they're gonna rotate anyway.
Yeah,
I don't think either of those guys is
quite
a
frankly,
70% snap guy.
If I have to be honest, this isn't. I mean, we all know.
They might trade for Trey Hendrickson. I'm just going to say that.
I don't know that they can afford to pay him the deal he wants. And guess what? The compensation went from, well, you can get him for a 2 and a 3 or a 2 or a 3 or 2 and a 3 to now, it's more like a 1 or 2
I know.
Like,
they're not getting him. I know that's not true. I just wanted to say it because it sounds so amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to do that, but I know they're not going to do that.
You're going back to the Super Bowl, you bring a guy like that.
Right, and that's what I want, but they're not going to do it.
They got the draft pick capital, man. I'm telling you. If you throw that 32 at the Bengals, 2 of those 5ths, and then maybe toss them like, a player with some upside at the bottom of your depth chart, like an Eli Ricks, or just give them something else. I'm telling you, man, I feel like they would jump on
Eli Ricks, who wants to take trash for a good No good team's going to take
just
your
put
trash.
on his Georgia tape.
Yeah, well, I get you. But look, for me, I still got Jay Luxon, and they knew, again, we're talking about another guy that the front office wants to win this job. They want Jay Luxon to win this job. Look, not even a third-year guy. He's a second-year guy. You kidding? We got him a rookie deal.
Yeah.
And he's going into the second year. We want him to win the deal. We bring in Uche, maybe give him some competition in camp. I think quite frankly, I think everybody really likes the Uche signing. I think he's a guy who will compete to make this roster.
Yeah,
that's in all actuality
you're right,
what
because
I think.
like I mentioned earlier, man, the book isn't written yet. You're going to draft. I would say they're going to come away from this draft with 2 potential edge guys from the draft.
Yeah, and
I think that would be the number. If I'm Howie, I'm going for 2 guys.
I think that first pick should be a defensive end.
You got to go
best
best available at 32, man. If you stay at 32,
well, I agree with you.
I say best available only because first rounds can be crazy.
I'm not gonna.
You don't know who's
gonna
disagree
fall
with that. You know who's gonna fall.
Right.
I'll tell you this. After what I saw them do with Quinyon and Coop, if the best cornerback that had a 15 grade
guys could fall.
Just take the best guy that falls, in my opinion.
I agree with you.
If I'm Howie, that's what I'd be doing. He might even see a guy in the 20s that should have been taken that they had graded in the top 7 even, because their grades are always going to be different than everybody else's. And he'd be like, you know what?
If that
let's go get him.
Is still there.
Let's go move up. They're going to move up.
Yeah,
they're going to move from 32 to 24, 32 to 27 if they have to.
I think that's what you got to do. And I think
they're going to do it.
At that point, they'll go, you know what? We want Jay Luxon to win this job,
the
so
draft
we'll see what happens.
Can't come quick enough. I'm more excited for this draft than Tek, believe it or not, than any draft in Eagles history as a fan, because if they hit on this draft like they hit on the last 2, this team is winning another Super Bowl.
I think so.
If they get 2 more starters like they got Quinyon and Coop, and they got 2 more starters out of this draft,
it's a lottery ticket,
you can book it.
It's a gamble.
No, it's not. They're 80% the last 2 years.
I know.
Adding players that actually contribute on a big scale or are lined up to. That's unheard of, man.
They also were positioned better in the
If you
draft.
do it 1 year in a row, 1 year, that's luck. You do it 2 years in a row, that's not luck. You go back 7 years and you have 25, 27 players that have been something, it's not luck anymore, man.
I get it.
They deciphered the code. Whatever they do behind those closed doors in that war room, Howie with his wizard hat on, all the minions around the table.
Yeah.
I wish I could be a minion on the wall.
I know. And look, the difference between, I think I brought this up last week.
I'll sit on the floor.
Right. The difference between Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman and a lot of these other teams, like the Bengals, for instance, I think the GM's got like a 9-person team.
Just a bad organization.
Howie's got like 150 people, the analytics department, the scouting. He's got all these different people that, that Jeffrey Lurie pays for.
The night before the draft, they all sleep in hyperbaric chambers on the field.
That would be ridiculous if they did that.
It's part of the team's wellness plan. I think Big Dom had that idea.
Yeah, Big Dom, he's the best. Big Dom is the best. All right, tight end Harrison Bryant. You really like the signing. I think if I'm being completely real with you,
he won the league's the NCAA award for best tight end in the nation.
They're going back to college.
He's only 26. Guy's 26 years. Yeah, only Tek. We're 40 something.
I know, but
He's 26.
Look, in football years, it's different. I think if I'm being perfectly honest with you, because I'm seeing absurd things being written, like, well, with Dallas Goedert's as a question mark, his future is a question mark with the Birds. They bring in a tight end who could. It's like,
They always have a good third tight end, though. They always have a good third tight end.
This guy is he is a training camp body who's going to compete with E.J. Jenkins for that third tight end
and he's going to get it.
Well, okay.
He's first-team All-American player.
Well,
this kid was on the Browns. No wonder he hasn't had a career.
Right.
Nobody has a career except for Miles Garrett.
He was with the Raiders last year and did nothing.
That's because they
he was the third
Brock
tight end,
Bowers.
And they got the guy who was drafted
Michael,
the year before.
Mayer.
That guy. Yeah. I get that.
John Mayer's cousin.
Yeah. So I get it. You bring him here, and it's like a fresh start thing. But look.
It worked with Becton. It worked with Baun.
I get you. I'm with all that. I believe this guy. This guy is a training camp body.
Okay,
right now.
all right.
I think he's going to compete.
We'll see. I think he's going to make the team, and I think he's actually going to catch 2 touchdowns next year.
Hey, I hope
2. Not 1, Tek. 2.
And by the way, I really like Calcaterra. I do too.
He's got the best hands in the team.
I'm seeing slander from Calcaterra from the Jacob guys and all these different guys talking about he is a perennial second tight end. I think I heard what's his name say it, Xander. I think I heard him say that, and I was like my eyes popped out of my skull.
No, Grant Calcaterra is a player.
Yeah, when Goddard went down, I would see some catches made, and I forgot it wasn't Goddard.
I know.
I was like, it's Calcaterra.
His hands, he has the best hands among tight ends on the team of any tight end, really, probably since Zach Ertz in his prime.
And for everyone saying, but he's a terrible blocker. No, that was the year before.
Right.
Last year, he improved as a blocker.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and tell you he was such a great blocker, but he was a much better blocker than he was the year before.
How about this jumbo set, Tek? You ready for this? Jumbo set, first and goal from the 5. Saquon as tailback. You got A.J. Dillon lined up a little offset right as a fullback, but then you also have Van Sumeren, almost like the old Green Bay wing with Van Sumeren in the backfield.
I love this, by
Harrison
the way.
Bryant on the left, lined up on the end of the tackle, and Dallas Goedert on the left, and then just one receiver. Bring it out here, man.
I think Goddard.
Power.
I do think Goddard will be gone. I think they trade.
Yeah.
I think they.
It's part of the deal to get Trey Hendrickson.
Baby.
Hey, Burrow wants to win now. But they don't have a tight end.
I think they draft.
Who's their tight end?
I don't know. Well, now they have a guy, don't they? They have a good guy. I forget.
Nah.
Really?
They don't.
I gotta look that one up.
They're receiver heavy out there. They don't really have like a wow tight end.
I think the mistake people are, this whole notion that the Eagles are going to draft his replacement and he's going to be an impact. I don't remember the last time the Eagles drafted a tight end and he had Brock Bowers' impact first year. I don't. And then granted, Brock Bowers
happened.
had a historic year for a tight end.
To do it with those quarterbacks too. That's impressive.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I don't think that you're going to be able to draft Goddard's replacement and have him make Goddard level impact this year, his first year.
No,
I don't see.
You don't need him to though, because now, even if you move Goddard, I'm fine with Calcaterra becoming the tight end starter. I'm fine with that. And then Harrison Bryant, if he's your de facto backup, then guess what? You have E.J. Jenkins behind him. You still have a strong tight end room, in my opinion.
I hear you. I hear you.
But get something good for Goddard. I think that's I love Dallas Goedert. I do. And he's had some great grabs. And the play against the Packers will exemplify his Eagles career. The one where he's just sunning the guy down the sideline for 6.
Unbelievable.
That play is one of...
He was the leading receiver in the entire postseason.
One of the key plays in that Eagles run, in my opinion, was what it did mentally to Green Bay. That's a key play in that whole run.
It took their heart.
With all that said,
he sunned them.
I think that you can get more back for Dallas Goedert right now than people realize.
I don't know. He's having it. Howie was like, "Listen, I'll take a 4th in 2027," and everybody's like, "Yeah, but you got to take on his contract." And Howie's like, "I'm not doing that. The whole point is to trade him to you, so you take the contract."
Right. Of course, we'll see what they do. Hey, I think there's also as good a chance that Goddard is on the roster as the start of the season.
I would prefer that to be the case. I heard Schefter say that they got one more salary shred to do.
Yeah, I heard that
name.
too. And Schefter, he was being coy about it, but he was speaking from a place of knowledge that he knows.
I know.
And Schefter, if anybody's, it's like him, Rappaport, Garofolo. These guys have like their own text message connections. They can just text the right dudes.
Yeah.
But they can't spill the beans too soon.
Right.
So they have that confidence, because they lose that confidence, guess what? They're not getting fed that info anymore.
You're right.
Don't be a snitch, Adam.
By the way, when I hear just audio of Schefter and I hear just audio of Ian Rappaport, I can't tell them apart. They sound the same.
These guys,
it's
eventually
amazing.
they're just going to have one big brain.
I mean, it's uncanny how much they sound alike.
Schefter, poor guy, he always looks so tired, man.
Well,
he always looks so tired. Every time I see the guy, it looks like he's like on a 3-day bender in Vegas.
Yeah. Ian Rappaport, he always looks like he's showered and ready to go. He looks like he's attending a real estate convention
all the time. It's a cool position to be in, to like be the new Chris Mortensons of the game.
Yeah.
Chris Mort and was it John, the older guy. You know I'm talking about John Clayton,
who passed away.
Yeah, and so did Mortensen. Those two laid the foundation for guys like Schefter and Rappaport.
They did.
And, it's just funny. You see Schefter, and it's almost like a tortured life, because you have to be glued to your phone. Like, he's probably at dinner with his family with the phone on a table.
Oh, yeah.
Making sure he's right on this midnight even.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how these guys do it, man.
He's got to attend the kids' soccer
I can't
games.
operate with a headache.
He's holding the phone.
Yeah, I can't operate with a headache. It looks like Schefter has a perpetual headache.
Oh, yeah, migraine level. Oh, I know.
God bless him.
And what's next? So we got to talk about what's next, or rather what should be next. And it's got to be safety. I know everyone's saying Justin Simmons and now Marcus Williams, and when you look up safeties,
isn't Marcus Epps a free agent?
Marcus Epps is. I don't know that I want to bring him back. You want to
He
bring him back?
didn't play bad though.
I know. I kind of want to leave the past in the past.
Let bygones be bygones.
Yeah, Marcus Williams was just let go by the Ravens.
I like Marcus Williams.
Oh, Marcus Williams, eyeballs on Howie. It's like, yo, he made $14 million last year.
Right,
Howie ain't
right.
signing Marcus
on a
Williams.
really good defense.
Yeah.
He would have to take a discount to win a chip because his elite quarterback Lamar can't win anything.
Right. And look, Justin Simmons, on the other hand, made $7.5 million, but I can't imagine Justin Simmons signing anywhere for less than like 2 years, $13 million, $7 guaranteed.
Right.
I don't know that Howie's doing that.
Well, did you hear Simmons talking about it?
I know.
You
Vic
hear
is
him?
here.
He,
Coach Parker, he'd like to come
They
here.
could pull on the heartstrings a little bit. It might save him $2 million, but that's probably about it.
Yeah,
those heartstrings are good for a $2 million discount.
Maybe. I don't know if it's realistic.
He's ringless. He's older.
I think as the bargain bin shopping continues, you have to start being realistic, and you go to these sites that show what they make, and you look at the safeties that are available, and stop looking at those top guys, and start going down to where it says $35 million, and start looking at those guys and below.
3.5.
3.5 million and below. Right. Start looking at
right.
those guys. Here's some realistic names that. I mean, I say realistic. I mean, come on, down to earth. Julian Blackmon,
Quandre Diggs,
Jordan Fuller, and if you really,
hey, Von Bell is out there.
Yeah, but he's old. He's like 36
you know what though?
How old is he?
Von Bell, I know he's older, but something about Von Bell, just like his name, just makes me think like great player because he was great for so long.
I think Blackman's actually the youngest. Julian Blackmon might be the youngest out of all of them. And look, if you really want to go cheap, I mean, you talking bargain bin, you can pivot and go to Chuck Clark. You know what I mean? A guy like that who you might have.
Actually, Von Bell's only 30.
Oh, is he only 30?
I like Von Bell, man. I think he's got a nose for the ball. His style of play is very much like B-Dog's.
Well, listen,
very much, but he might allow 9 touchdowns. Though.
Exactly. I have
to look at the numbers.
I don't know what he made. Matter of fact, I think I can tell you right now how much Von Bell made. Von Bell, last year, there it goes. Okay, now you're talking. He made 1.2. So that's a Howie signing. There you go. Von Bell is 30 years old.
But you got to get the okay from the Godfather, Vic. So we don't know what that would mean.
Right.
I mean, he's an O-State guy. He was a second-round pick, 61st overall pick. Yeah, you're right. I mean, he was on a 1-year, $1.2 million contract.
And by the way, I got a guy who's right underneath him who actually was a cornerback on our practice squad a couple years ago, went to New Orleans, transitioned into a safety, and he's right underneath Von Bell at $1.125 million last year. That's Ugo Amadi, safety, New Orleans. You know why I say that name? Because that's the type of thing when you're scrolling through Twitter and you're refreshing your feed and you see Eagles sign Ugo Amadi and you go, who? That's what happens.
Jalen Mills.
It's not going to. They're not bringing back the Goblin. I just don't see it.
But he is a Super Bowl champion here, Tek.
The past is in the past.
But he's not a loser past. He's a winner past.
I guess. You know, look, Kayvon Wallace is out there.
Oh, no.
What about Rodney McLeod? He's out there.
Now you're too low.
What about Jordan Poyer? Didn't we have him? Didn't we draft him?
Poyer was Bill.
We draft him?
He was a Bill for a while. Von Bell, to me, makes perfect sense. It just makes perfect sense to me. He's familiar with the stud AFC quarterbacks that you'd have to beat in the Super Bowl. He's familiar with the Josh Allens, the Patty Mahomes.
I think if he wants to spend more than what it would take to get Von Bell, I actually think it's worth pivoting to a Julian Blackmon or a Jordan Fuller. Those guys are both 27 years old.
Fuller I like. Fuller has had a pretty good short career so far.
They're 27 years old, and I mean Julian Blackmon did make $3.7 million, so maybe he's out of your range. Maybe you can get him for $3 million. I don't know.
These guys want to win rings, and we provide one of the rare opportunities on the free agent market right now, which is this team has a legitimate chance to win a Lombardi. There's only 5-6 teams that really have that appeal.
Right.
And they're mostly in the AFC. I mean, we're one of the few NFC teams. You could say Green Bay will be in the mix. You can say, as much as I hate to say it, Dak's coming back. Dallas will probably be competitive.
Yeah.
They'll be competitive. But other than that, I don't see anybody in the NFC. Washington, Green Bay, Dallas. I think those are the Birds' 3 biggest competitors. Tampa's going to be around because Baker knows how to run that team down there. He's pretty good. Tampa will be in the mix, I think, for competing. And then you'll have your sleepers like Carolina. I think is actually going to be pretty good next year, but not Super Bowl caliber, but playoff caliber.
But the philosophy that we were just talking about, the rest of the guys, that the holes in this lineup, it pertains to safety. So let's say they go get Von Bell or they go get somebody like that. The bottom line is they're bringing in a veteran, and they want Sidney Brown to win this job, even though they bring in Von Bell.
I would love to see Sidney Brown win the job because that would mean that he is good enough.
I don't think he's a starting safety at least yet, and I really do.
I think you're right.
I think they have to make a move at safety. Now, the thing that was really an eyebrow raiser was Daniel Jeremiah put out his mock draft like 3 weeks ago. And he had the Eagles taking a safety with their first-round pick. And I said, that you got to be on crack to think that's going to happen.
If they were going to take safeties in the first round, they would have drafted Kyle Hamilton.
But then they trade CJ, and I'm like, you know what? Daniel Jeremiah used to work under Howie in the front office. He now is the draft expert guy on the NFL Network.
Right.
And he's the guy, when we're all watching ESPN on draft night, Howie is in his office and in the war room watching the NFL Network, watching Daniel Jeremiah. He said when they got to the third round and they had like back in a fourth round grade, originally like a fourth round grade on Jalix Hunt. And he sees Daniel Jeremiah say, best available right now, third round, Jalix Hunt. Howie goes, whoa, we got to take him now. We got to take him now, third round.
Here he is.
So he's listening to Daniel Jeremiah. So all of a sudden, I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. Did Daniel Jeremiah know something we didn't know, that CJ was going to be moved?
He could have.
So that's why he said safety first round, because now it's like, I think it needs to be edge.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Malachi from Georgia, the Georgia kid, if he's there, do you not take him?
I'm still best available, man. I would have to weigh that. I would have to weigh that against what the rest of the positions look like.
I just find it strange that he
I like Daniel Jeremiah.
He said it a few weeks ago, and then the CJ drops. That news drops this week, and it's like, well, wait a minute. Now there's a gaping hole at safety. How did he know?
Right.
So it's.
Hey, look. Regardless how it shakes out, it is such an exciting time to be a Birds fan.
It is.
Because we're going to compete again to go back to a Super Bowl.
One more thing.
Jalen Hurts
on the safety spot. They know Sidney Brown ain't the guy because they were in on Justin Reed.
They were.
And they got outbid.
Well, that tells me that they might go for one of the higher names on the list.
Maybe they do go Justin Simmons like all the fans want.
I think Von Bell just reeks of a Howie type of deal.
Is he coming off an injury? That's another thing. Howie likes guys that are coming off an injury.
I don't think so. Maybe he is, but we'll see what they do, man. There's a lot that's going to go down. News is rolling in every moment. I mean, things happen early in the morning, late at night. It's pretty much a flurry every day.
It's true. The shelf life of our last show was like 12 hours.
Basically was.
So, this is what happens. I'm not seeing anything significant about Von Bell coming off of injury or anything like that. So maybe.
And his style of play is a lot like Sidney's is, so he might be able to mentor a bit. But he's 30. He's right at that middle point age where, look, bring him in on a 1 or a 2 year deal, bring him in on a prove it year, and see what happens. It tends to work when Howie does that with some of these guys.
Yeah, I'm curious now. I'm just looking up on socials. I just would like. What are they saying about Von Bell? Okay, the Colts are interested. The Bengals are interested.
Yeah,
Well,
of
he
course
was
the
there,
Bengals are going to
right?
want to keep their
They're
guy
gonna
there.
want to keep him.
Because he's a quality secondary player. A
Well,
couple years ago, the Bengals' defense was a lot better than it was this
boy,
previous
the
year.
Jets are interested.
I could see that too. The Jets have a good
Or
defense.
at least Jets fans. I'm going off of social.
Okay,
social
gotcha.
media.
Yeah.
So, the fans would like this.
The draft can't come fast enough.
It
Tech.
really can. I mean, I'm pretty excited about this.
Can we get to April? Where are they having it this year?
I don't know.
We'll have to look that
Vegas,
up.
maybe.
Is it Vegas again?
Maybe.
I'd like to go to a draft. You ever go to a draft?
I didn't, but it was here just a few years
It was,
ago.
and I didn't go. And David Akers dropped the killer line, right? The killer cowboy.
Oh, that was
line.
tremendous. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Where is it?
It would be cool to go to a draft at some point.
Oh wow! I think it's happening. It's happening at Lambeau. It's happening in Green Bay.
That's an interesting decision because that's a small town.
It is.
Going to get an influx of the rest of the world.
I know.
Those cheeseheads are not going to be too happy when they can't park in their usual parking spot.
Exactly.
You know how small town people are.
I
They'll have
know.
that trash can in the parking spot.
Oh, that's gonna piss a lot of people off.
I don't know if that's going to work out too well.
That might not.
And it's Wisconsin.
I'm looking forward to the draft.
Honestly, who wants to go to Wisconsin ever?
No, ever.
People that are born there leave there.
Yeah, I know. It's freezing, and that's ridiculous.
It's going to be April. It's still going to be 35 degrees there.
Which is absurd. It's absurd, almost like Milton Williams' contract. It's absurd.
Yeah, and he's feeling himself a little too much. I
know.
do like Milton, but you know what?
Good for him.
Think about before the season, Milton Williams wasn't like a top tier defensive tackle to us. He was just a good team player. No,
him
it's because
and Josh Sweater,
the market
they're
dictated that.
Solid players.
The market availability of other guys dictated what they got.
Exactly.
And that happens sometimes. But
it does.
I think the Patriots are going to really regret that deal.
They could.
Because Jalen Carter isn't next to him.
Let's end this week show on a high note. Phil's.
Hey, man, tearing the cover off the ball in early spring. Kepler looking pretty good, popping some homers.
Kepler could help the bottom of his lineup.
And Trey with the leadoff bomb yesterday. And then what happens? Lo and behold, Schwarber comes up in the 4-hole and smashes a 3-run home run. This is what I was talking about on TV the other night when we were on.
Yeah.
This is what that does for you.
Yeah,
Give me Schwarber up in the first with 2 outs and 2 on instead of leading off the game, and you're going to get more run production. It's just science, Tech.
It is.
It's mathematical science.
I'm just not sure about, the lineup. I mean, look, if you got Trey leading off.
They went Trey, Bryce,
yep,
Bohm, Schwarber.
I don't love Bohm.
And then you can go Casty, Kepler, Stott, Marsh, or Real Muto, Stott, Marsh. I like it, man. The lineup, it has potential to be as good as it was last year with this little reshuffle. And Kepler looks like he's actually going to be more like the guy that was the good Twins Kepler, not the quiet Kepler.
I hope, because I wanted one, like when I thought about changes, right? It's like, I'm not even like, I caught a lot of flack, even from our boy Johnny Marks, when I said that Middleton closed the wallet. I said it last week, and I caught a lot of flack. Our guys at what is that? In the Alley, the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys and Johnny Marks. And, I'm not talking about that his wallet is the third highest payroll. Yes, I know. The wallet was open to get them to the third highest payroll. But this offseason, the wallet was closed. He closed it. It's closed now. It wasn't closed last year and the year before. No. But it was closed this year. He made Kepler. Kepler was a value signing coming off a bad year.
It was a Howie type of move.
Yeah. It was like a value deal. I get it. And then the
well, Luzardo, bringing Luzardo in, that's actually a good move.
He's on a value deal. He's still like on a rookie contract.
That's what happens when you get guys from the Marlins, baby.
Right. So these are value deals. I think the biggest money that was spent was on Jordan Romano, and you had to spend.
And you gotta hope that Romano can return to form because
or
he's
else
a year
that
removed.
Is a nonsense contract, right?
He's a year removed from, and these pitchers, they're like fruit. You go to sleep and the fruit looks good. You wake up in the morning,
it's spoiled,
and the banana is brown.
Yes, you're right. You're exactly right.
We gotta hope that that's not the case with Romano because the guy has a penchant for being a fiery reliever.
Yeah,
if he can find it.
I said the wallet's closed, and what I mean by that is like, I'm not asking for him to be the Dodgers and for them to sign this guy, that guy, all the guys on the market. But, like, look, Bryce told you he was willing to move back to the outfield. You could have went and got a slugger. You could, I don't love Alonso.
Christian Walker would have been
you could have got Walker.
Smartest move, man.
So, like, that's my point is, like, I only needed one more big bat to, like, enter this lineup and, like, split up the dynamic that was going on that caused some staleness. I needed, like, one guy. I didn't need Dodgers level 4 or 5 guys. I needed one guy.
They're going to win a lot of games.
Split some of this up.
They're going to win a lot of games.
So I'm banking on a guy like Kepler having a good year and doing what I wanted. Yeah. I wanted a guy to come in and kind of break up this staleness of this dynamic that's been happening postseason after postseason after postseason, where guys go dry, guys go cold, guys go stale.
Yeah.
And, like, I need a guy to break that up. And I don't believe Kepler's that kind of guy.
I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised.
Listen,
he sees a lot of pitches. He doesn't strike out a ton. He's just a good ball player. He's a good contributing ball player. He's not just average. Like, he's slightly above average, but just below, like, really good. In that range.
Yeah.
Which is better than what you're going to get from a guy like Marsh, probably, who's going to be average.
Yes.
You know, or, with your shuffle, if you have to shuffle like Rojas and Cal Stevenson, who I think is going to make the team, those guys. You know, you're a step above all those guys with Kepler. But I think it's more so about the reshuffled synergy, if you will, of this. And with having Trey at the top of the lineup, you don't really lose a lot of power. He has power. Obviously, he's not Schwarber, but he can pop 20 bombs.
Yeah.
And he's going to walk a lot. He has to get that strikeout rate down.
I agree.
Because Schwarber strikes out a lot too, but he walks as much as he strikes out.
Right.
So if Trey can be a little more disciplined at the plate, him leading off, like I said, with Schwarber coming up with a couple guys on, you have the potential for more 3-4 run first innings than you have in recent years.
Yeah.
And that makes a huge difference in a ball game. When you got Wheeler on the mound, Nola on the mound, Sanchez, Suarez, Luzardo. This rotation, only the Dodgers rotation is probably better.
You're right.
In the National League.
I'm expecting us to have one of the best rotations
in all of
baseball.
Yeah, they should be going 6-7 routinely. You should have Alvarado coming in comfortably in a lot of 7th and 8th innings. Who's closing?
I think it's by committee. I think
because Romano would be the natural thought, right?
Romano,
I think he's going to get the ball first to try it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Strom's still on the team too.
He's starting off on the IL though.
Okay, yeah.
So and we'll see who even takes that spot.
Strom probably pulled a forearm muscle. He collects cards.
Really?
He probably pulled a hand muscle collecting cards.
Is that what he did?
I don't know.
It's ridiculous. I think it was something that seemed pretty serious that he's going to miss some time to start of the season.
Yeah, he's on TV sometimes on NBC Sports, like on like really like obscure hours, and it's just a camera on Strom, and he's got his normal guy clothes on, so he looks like a regular dude, right? And he's collecting sports cards.
No.
Yeah, and he sponsors this one company that has an app that allows you to price and trade sports cards on
a
digital marketplace. Yeah. Strom's a big sports card guy. And you know me.
Wow.
I'm starting lineup figures still. So I got
3 in the morning
cards.
he's on like it's the Home Shopping Network?
It's kind of like an infomercial for this app, and he's the guy. But it's a little more than that. He talks about it, him growing up and collecting cars, and they have guests on talking to him sometimes, like other stars. Yeah, I'll have to find out what it's called, but you can find it. If you just Google Matt Strom, card collector, NBC Sports app, it'll probably pop right up.
That's why he might have strained a forearm.
He strained a forearm, opening a patch too fast.
Yeah. Well, look, I am going to admit to you that as we get closer to opening day, I'm revving up a little bit.
We're close, Tek. We're close.
I thought, the whole vibes have been low for me on the Phils, but I'm gearing up. I felt like when we were on Fox 29 the other night, I was rocking the Super Bowl champs and then the Birds hat. Now I feel like I'm kind of putting them on the shelf for a little while. I know we're in the off season, and I'm psyched about the draft and the rest of the free agency. But I am kind of shifting over now.
It's almost April.
To the Phils.
It's almost April. Open the season at home against the Rockies, I think. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I get it why a lot of people are still, hey, I'll still rock my Eagles hat occasionally, but I'm shifting over now to the Phils because I think that's where we have to go
It's
now.
in that mode, man. It's a great time of year. The
But
birds start chirping again.
The birds are still active, and next week we come back, we'll be focusing on what other moves they made. They're gonna make. There's a couple more moves to go.
This is where Howie shines. When now initially, right, when the free agent period starts, the players have the leverage.
Yeah,
because it's new. Everyone's kind of scrambling to get the best guys. Howie doesn't need to play it that way with this team. Now we have the leverage because you have guys that are not getting contracts. They're still available for a reason, and they know it. And they want to win rings. They play to win rings.
That's it.
Not Myles Garrett, but everybody else besides Myles Garrett plays to win rings.
DeMarcus Lawrence left the Cowboys, and now there's beef between him and Micah Parsons. This is great.
Good.
This is great.
Good. Micah might end up. I think Micah does not finish his career as a Cowboy.
I don't see how you could. I mean,
when I say finish his career, I mean I don't think he plays more than 3 more seasons with them.
Yeah, if you really want to win, how could you just stay there? I don't.
Dak Prescott is the highest paid quarterback.
Yeah. Then they restructured him so that it's
They pulled a Howie move. Yeah,
they pulled a Howie move, and they had a 1,000-yard running back. Dowdle, whatever that guy.
Now, where'd he go? He went.
He left. They let him leave. You had a 1,000-yard rusher, and you let him leave.
I just saw where he went.
They are such a nonsensical organization.
Yeah, I know.
And they made a couple of trades that are like head scratching, like Murray from Tennessee.
Well,
who are these? What are you doing?
You got an elderly man with delusions of grandeur running the ship.
Yeah, they're making terrible decisions there.
He's, you know what? I'm fine with it.
I am too. But Washington, they might go ahead and go get Von Miller and Cooper Kupp, and they might. They're
trying to load up. They're trying to beat the Birds. Everyone's trying to beat the Birds, Tek. I don't know if they can, but that's what they're trying to do.
They are trying to do that.
We'll see. Jalen doesn't want to lose again. It changed his soul. Super Bowl 57.
I know
his words.
Yeah, he's got the Mamba mentality. I know he doesn't
change my soul, man.
He's coming back. I know.
That changed my soul, man.
Yeah, did you watch the mic'd up? By the way,
watched
they released
all
the
of
second
it.
mic'd up.
I watched all of it twice.
It was so fantastic.
Actually, I'm due for another rewatch.
It's like
I'm due for like that. They condensed the Super Bowl in like an hour.
It's the best. I've seen it like 4 times. Yeah.
I just can't. I can't get enough.
I can't get enough.
We'll never get enough. That will live. We'll be 67, 68, 70 years old rewatching those highlights. Tek.
It's the best.
It's really
It's really unbelievable. All right, we turn the page and we wait to see what happens from now until next week. Free agency and more on the Phils. We will see you next week.
Vet Alumni